I like bananas. Daniel 2:44, New International Version. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it itself will endure forever. Okay, so this is a reference to the last days, a period of time known as the last days that Daniel foresaw. And it refers to the time period that we are living in right now, the time of those kings, and that we've been living in. So, how is this going to take place? The God of heaven will set up a kingdom. What is a kingdom? Kingdom is a government. It will crush and put an end to those kingdoms. So, it has to be a global government, therefore. Right? Or indeed of a global nature. Perhaps we will still, to some degree, have national governments, but they will be conducted as a single, as part of a single whole. global government, which will effectively crush all of these individual kingdoms and bring them to an end because all the nations and individual national governments will be acting as a single unified whole, if they even exist after a point. And it says this kingdom, this global kingdom, this global government will itself exist forever. I really wish I could explain to you fully what I believe about this scripture. And how it pertains to what I'm trying to do here by you know, running for president, which I don't really know if I want to do that anymore. I don't think that it's really the entirely appropriate thing for me to be doing because I am endeavoring to be part of this global kingdom of God, this God's kingdom government. Um, I believe that ultimately that is the only real solution to the problems that mankind experiences. Um, and I don't believe that putting the interests of any nation or tribe or language or people ahead of anybody else is the solution to the problems that we see in the world. I don't believe that that's real patriotism. I believe that's called nationalism. And I think nationalism is a flawed approach to uh, a very flawed approach, in fact, dangerous approach to solving any problems. I believe that real patriotism involves caring about the people first within a society, but also understanding the place that our society has in the bigger picture of things, which is the world, the globe. Because, you know, that's just reality. We're all human beings on this tiny little planet floating around the sun. And we're all interconnected, whether we like it or not. We can't sort of build these little kingdoms on the earth to protect us from the imaginary boogeyman that is the other people or those people over there, or uh, try to force us to be more unified through internal laws and rules and regulations. And it just doesn't work. Um, no, I'm not here to knock or criticize any country, especially the United States, frankly. Um, but I do think we need to, as citizens of the United States, and more importantly, citizens of planet Earth, um, collectively adjust our thinking to how we see ourselves. Because, like it or not, we have to be Earthlings first, really. Um, Especially considering the fact that the United States of America has such a profound impact on the rest of the world. In everything that we do, from I don't think there isn't a thing that uh, is a daily part of life in the United States that doesn't have an influence on the rest of the world in some way, good or bad. So I guess what I'm saying here is that, you know, I'm not really sure if it's the right thing for me to be doing, to be participating or trying to participate in or get involved in um, public office in the United States, because I don't know how effective that's going to be in actually solving problems. Um, I just don't know. An interesting thing, though, is that I might not have a choice. You know, like if I'm trying to be part of this God's kingdom government that I believe in, it might reach a point eventually where the only way that we can effectively um, make God's kingdom the government of the earth is to get into public office in our national governments. I don't know. Uh, I guess what I'm saying is if that's the case in the future, then then that's what I'm here for. But if that's not the case in the future, then I don't want to be part of it. I don't want if I can't remain part of the kingdom government, then I don't want to be part of something else. Um, and I wish that, you know, nationalists and in fact uh, a lot of these people are Republicans, which is the sort of political tradition, if you will, that I believe I came out of. I was raised with a lot, but I sort of evolved beyond it in terms of understanding of the world and adherence to this sort of rigid approach to problem solving. Um, but it feels to me like, you know, it's not just on that. It's not just Republicans, though. It's people on both sides and in both many parts of the political spectrum who try to force these cookie cutter approaches on everybody to solving our problems or to how society should be conducted. Um, I'm not like that. I want you guys to know that. Like, I might have come from the political right, but I'm not really part of it anymore. I'm definitely not a leftist, though. I mean, I think the liberal left is insane at this point. The Democratic Party it's full of nut jobs who just want to. I don't know. I don't know what they want to do. It's beyond what I see coming from the left is beyond insane at this point. So I definitely can't align myself with that. So in truth, I am not really politically aligned. I am neutral, and I can see, good ideas on either side of the spectrum. However, I think that it's important to be, if you really want to step back and find actual solutions to things, I think you need to look at every option. And if you want to find truth, you need to look at all points in the spectrum because it's all over the place now. And I think this, like, you know, sort of bipolar disorder approach to government is an absolute failure and a disaster and a nightmare. And it's a form of gaslighting against the ordinary people who are just trying to survive, you guys, like myself. I mean, I'm not some oligarch who has billions of dollars in the bank who can just, whimsically do whatever I want. I'm just trying to get by just like everybody else. And none of it makes sense to me, frankly. I don't see all the answers, I don't see the solutions on the complete solution, the complete set of solutions on any one side of the spectrum. I see the solutions on both sides, but on neither ultimately. It's a composite of both, and it's in the middle somewhere. And that's where I am, you guys. So, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think that right now I can really say that running for office is a good idea for me. And what I'm saying, though, is if there's some way that doing so will still allow me to hold fast to my beliefs about God's kingdom and what it will ultimately do for the earth. Um, if that government doesn't completely take over the planet by that point, and if there's a need for people to step into office to kind of guide things along, then I'll do that if you guys want me to. But right now, it just doesn't seem like a good idea. I don't know. Uh, Tony, that's a really interesting question because no one's contributed a penny to my campaign yet. So, but you can contribute whatever. Anybody's allowed to contribute whatever they want. Um, my my PayPal address is on my website. If you go there, macintoshusa.org, I believe there's a link to PayPal, and I accept any contributions through there, whatever anybody wants to contribute, and I certainly appreciate it because. Oh, actually, I want to. If you look at the menu at the top there, before the second to last option, it says contribute and then contact. If you click on the contribute link, you can, there's a little button there that says donate, and you can donate money to my PayPal account through any means, a credit card, debit card, other PayPal accounts, I think. Yep. It says purchase details. You just put in whatever you want, description, donation. Price per item, put in however much you want. And then you click the continue button, and then it gives you, let's see, I'm looking at it right now. I've never tried to do this. It gives you a checkout option and you can just use the debit or credit card to make a donation there, and it'll go straight to my PayPal account. So, um, yeah. So $2,400. You have $2,400 to contribute to my campaign. Are you kidding me? That's like more money than I've seen from anybody, probably ever. So if you have that to contribute, thank you. I'll certainly put it to positive use in promoting the ideas that we've been trying to get across to people. Um, and there's a lot more where those came from. We have so many great ideas coming in from all over the place, and I know I want to see a lot of these things happen for sure, and I just don't know how we're going to make these things happen right now. It seems really kind of a long way off to me right now. But I mean, because right now we're stuck in an economic system trap. We really are. I mean, this economic system that we have is just ultimately it's holding everything back. We're stuck in a cycle, a vicious cycle, where we're perpetuating the same ideas over and over and over, the same failed ideas, or at best mediocre ideas over and over and over again. Um, so yeah, yeah, the USA has been good to a lot of people, Tony. It's nice when appreciation is shown in return. I mean, like America's always looking out for everybody else. We do try to be good neighbors, I think, not just to our immediate neighbors in Canada and Mexico, but I mean, we haven't been out of Europe since 1945, for instance, because of the two world wars that started in Europe. So we're trying to still involved in Europe heavily. Um, Still in Japan. Haven't left Japan since 1945. Um, Trying to help. We are generally people who want to try to help make the world a better place and help solve problems. Ultimately, that's kind of the American way. But it really isn't easy when we're stuck with like economic systems that existed before the United States was even founded that keep us kind of controlled ultimately by you know, I'm pretty sure by foreign powers, but you know, I don't really like that. I wish there was more way that we could uh, shape our own financial destiny, and I'm hoping that does change. I think the Bitcoin, for instance, is a start to that ultimately changing, perhaps. I know Richard Nixon was certainly a genius for eliminating the gold standard and bringing in fiat currency. That definitely threw them for a loop, them being the people who want to control our economic systems. Um, but we do try to help in our limited way, and we are limited, especially when we have presidents who don't actually like want things to change or are too afraid to make things to break with the traditions that have been forced upon us since before the United States even began. Um, it's sad, actually. It's really sad. And I don't know if I have the patience to wait for that to change, or if I want to get involved and try to make it change. Either way, I want it to change, um, and I'm not afraid to make it happen. I just hope no one wants to like shoot me before anything comes to fruition, but because that's what's happened to people in the past, like John F. Kennedy, for instance, who wanted to do away with the economic system at the time and replace it with a new type of economic system and banking system. And he did, but he was killed a few days later, but even like the next day. So yeah, the new time travel video. I've seen that Gerald Gardner. Um, I don't know if you've heard of the Al Bielek stories, but those are basically like carbon copy of Al Bielek. I mean, if it's the future we're talking about, then anybody who's been to those time periods is probably gonna have the same thing to say if they're really time travelers. But it's certainly possible. It does look kind of fake, though, don't you think? The Gerald Gardner video. I mean, that just looks like a guy wearing a mask pretending to be an old man. My wife was talking about it. It reminds her of the Monty Python sketch, the architect sketch. You guys know that one? The architect sketch. The really fake accent, the fake British accent. Mm, debunked. I think everything's been debunked. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true either. Like you can try. Like there are people who have debunked the. Can bring pretty convincing arguments that the Earth is flat, and um, that the earth is hollow and all this kind of stuff, but is any of that really true? Some people are pretty adept at convincing you of something one way or the other. Um, hmm. One thing's for sure, I don't believe that if you're familiar with Andy Bashago, I do believe he's telling the truth because strangely, I have memories of uh, experiences that overlap with some of his. So I remember seeing him in some of my experiences, in some of my memories that I recovered. And even Andy himself has told me that he doesn't remember me, but and that I'm possibly suffering from a psychological phenomenon where I've inserted myself into his experiences, which I don't believe is the truth, but um, I do believe that I experienced time travel through extraterrestrial encounter, and I experienced Mars teleportation through the CIA, DARPA, and I saw Andy Bashago there, and I worked with Barack Obama. Um, and the memories occurred around the same time, and in fact, in the same time and location that Andy reports his experiences from. And I was living in that part of the world at the time. I was living in that part of North America. So, and other people involved with uh, the program, the DARPA program, the Mars program, have reported, I believe, that as many as 100,000 Americans have been teleported to Mars. So I believe I'm one of those people. I'm just one of those many thousands of people. I've just had more time to delve into what's in my memory lately than a lot of people because I was injured and had to spend a lot of time resting. I got hit by a drunk driver in the New York City area some time ago. So I I've been more or less disabled, you guys. I haven't been able to really like have a proper job, if you will, for like probably close to 9 years. Let's see, 2010, January 1st, 2010. I was hit by a drunk driver in the New York City area. A drunk New York City bus driver. Um, I was mostly in bed for like a whole year, where I could. It was a struggle for me to even operate a laptop computer in bed. So the only thing I could do was produce music, which I did. I gradually worked my way up to being able to like do some other things. But the trauma from that accident really forced me to kind of delve into my past traumas to figure out what had happened to me, um, and how to heal fully. And I got stuck at a certain point in my childhood, around 5 and 6, and I couldn't remember things. I knew that there was something I couldn't remember, and did some real serious searching. And I believe ultimately it was God who led me to uh, discover the the accounts that Andy Bashago and others had uh, put out there to help me to remember what had happened to me. Yeah, that's what happened. And, God has a way of helping you heal. I trusted him really to help me get better. And finding those memories was a huge part of helping me get better. Mm. What's an ACL, Tony? Broke your ACL. Mm. Oh wait, all right. Shoulder joint. Yeah, it is hard to get the point that advanced beings do exist, and like people aren't really gonna believe it until necessarily until they experience it themselves. But I mean, you know, there's so many people out there, for instance, who believe in the Bible, such as I do, and Bible tells us that there are angels. Well, what are angels? They're other dimensional beings, higher dimensional beings. Now, why do they have to do they necessarily have to exist the in the way that they are depicted by religious art and this kind of thing, or maybe they exist differently than history has depicted them. Maybe there's an overlap between angels and extraterrestrials. That's an idea that I'm putting out there. I've been thinking that, talking, saying that for not just a few years. I've been suggesting that idea for probably 30 years now. That there's been an overlap between uh, the angels in the Bible and extraterrestrials. But I was reading books like uh, Chariots of the Gods and this kind of thing by Eric von Daniken. my teenage years, so just out of curiosity. Climate change, Jimmy, I believe I mean, the climate's always changing. It's always been changing. We had, you know, the Ice Age, for instance. The Earth was probably tropical. The whole planet was probably tropical at one point. The climate changes. It's a natural phenomenon. What's not natural is the idea that we can somehow control that. Um, we can't. We have to adapt to it. So that means, you know, figuring out ways to live that don't involve like thinking that we can control the earth, which is just stupidity. We're like fleas on the back of a dog. You know what I mean? When it comes to the earth is alive, pretty much, and we're just a nuisance to it. We're not something that you know. It's not something that we can control. And I think to think that we can control the climate to suit us is the sort of height of human arrogance, frankly. I think we need to approach it differently. We need to learn how to adapt and not be negatively affected by it if we want to survive. It's really that simple. But what about climate change? Yeah. So, what about it? I mean, I think all these people that think that they're going to save the planet by introducing legislation that is designed to control you. They're insane. They're lunatics. And they just want to control people, ultimately. That's what they're trying to do. That's not an effective, it's not an effective way to solve anything. Um, if we don't want to be affected by coastal flooding and earthquakes and this kind of thing, maybe we shouldn't be building along the oceans or the seas. Maybe we shouldn't be building on fault lines. You know, if you don't want to be cold, don't build near the snow. It's really that simple. Don't build an entire city along a fault line. That's just dumb. Don't build an entire city along the coastline if it's going to rise 100 feet and the city's going to be flooded. That's idiotic. Didn't didn't they think of this stuff back then? Obviously not, but we know that now. So we have to adapt and not continue the madness and just hope that, you know, hope that people aren't hurt in the process because, in 300 years, do you think that, for instance, New York City is going to be still here? Or Los Angeles? 500 years, 600 years? You really think all that's going to last forever? Probably not. I mean, we have to learn how to adapt to changes in the earth, which means living more simply, for one, and um, possibly using more advanced technology to help us to move around more easily, not be in one place all the time. You know, we could have floating houses, perhaps. These things are technologically feasible. I think that whole thing with Russia is just, you know, it's just the Democrats trying to be alarmist. And I think that if the Democrats had won the election, there would have been probably an issue. But they didn't win, so it's kind of over, isn't it? I think. And realistically, I mean, Russia's not much of a threat to anybody. They're not, you know, Russia's not aggressive. And even if they were, it wouldn't, the collective might of all the world powers and the superpower put together is more than a match for anything that Russia could throw at us. So it's like checkmate, you know what I mean? But I mean, I don't think about it that way. You're right. We do need to like be be working towards partnership and friendship with all people. Really, that's just a sensible approach to anything. Really, but yeah, I would definitely like to have more Russian friends. I like Russian people. I like vodka. I like snow. Yeah, I like Russian architecture. I think Moscow seems like a fascinating city. I think some of the most brilliant people in history have been from Russia. You know, I think that we should give Russia the opportunity to contribute more to the rest of the world because they can and they're ready to and they're ready to, you know, they're ready to help. You know, enough time has passed since they were isolated by the Soviet Union, and since the West isolated them really, that you know, it seems like Russia has collectively rethought its position in the world, and it's positive. You know, they're a force for good. So I just wish they would stop. Like their government would kind of lay off on. It's not even the entire government; it's parts of the government. I wish they would lay off on persecuting, uh, for instance, Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia. Jehovah's Witnesses have been locked up in Russia lately for with accusations of being extremist, which I think is insane. that's absurd. And Vladimir Putin knows that, but he hasn't done anything about it yet that I'm aware of. I wish that wouldn't happen because, you know, I think those are probably some of the finest people in Russia, but they're being put in jail for just preaching about God, which is absurd. Yeah, I don't know what Trump's gonna do. Something I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't know him. You know what I mean? I wish that uh, I wish that he was the person that I want him to be, but I think I don't know, I've been very pleasantly surprised by Trump at times, and uh, at other times been very disappointed. So I don't know what to expect from him, and I think that's how he is. You know, I think he doesn't want people to know what he's thinking. He doesn't want people to know what he's trying to accomplish, and I think he's paranoid and kind of a I don't know. He's not as transparent as um, I think we would like him to be, and the media certainly doesn't help with that at all. I just don't know what to expect from Donald Trump, frankly. I didn't know enough about him before he became president. I didn't know, like, I just didn't know anything about him as a person. Of course, I knew who he was, um, but there's no like. I don't think we really knew what kind of person he was or is. I still think we don't, and I, I have to be honest in saying I don't. I still don't know. I don't really trust that there isn't some kind of hidden agenda behind his presidency. If you know what I mean, it doesn't seem like really real to me. It doesn't seem fully transparent. Um, I don't know. I think I can't help but get the feeling that he has some motive guiding his presidency that isn't known to the American people, and I just wish that there was some way of knowing that that isn't true. It's just this feeling I have. It's not really, yeah. It's just a feeling. I can't really base things on feelings. So I hope it's not true. I'm willing to give anybody the benefit of the doubt. You know what I'm saying? But I hope there's no sort of ulterior motive for him seeking the office of president other than to help the country. And when I say the country, I mean the people, because the people are the country, right? Right. At least they should be in the United States. Mr. Trump. All right. Well, Guys, I'm just not sure, honestly. I don't see how I'm going to be able to uh, be a real force for positive impact and positive things happening and be president of the United States. So, if you guys really want that to happen, um, please explain to me how you think that can be accomplished because I don't see it right now. So right now I'm going to continue to focus on what I'm doing right now, which is I'm studying law right now actually, and I'm going to continue to prioritize my spiritual uh, pursuits. And I think I'm going to take a very long break from YouTube, perhaps, but I might just come back on every once in a while to see how everybody's doing. And I hope everything's going well with all of you. And thanks for stopping in. Have a good night, everybody.